Hello and welcome to another video review from AV Forums. I'm Phil Hinton and I've been the editor since 2003. I'm also a fully trained and qualified THX and ISF calibrator with 17 years of experience. In today's video we're looking at the Philips OLED+934 4K OLED TV. If you like our reviews and want to see more of them while supporting our channel, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell to be informed every time we upload new video content. You can also read the full in-depth review at AV Forums, and don't forget to check out the TV forums at Europe's largest AV community on AV Forums to see what owners of this TV think about it after normal use in their own homes. The Philips OLED+934 sits just below the flagship OLED+984 in the 2019 range, and it sports a European-style design and a standalone soundbar from Bowers Wilkins. This soundbar features proprietary B&W drivers with a 2.1.2 layout with upward firing drivers, and it has a bass port to the rear. It sits out in front of the TV and uses a special bracket that turns the whole thing into a stand for the 934 when it's table mounted. You get a second stand in the box for wall mounting the soundbar with the TV. The 934 also features HDR10, HLG, Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus high dynamic range systems, along with Dolby Atmos sound. The TV uses the third generation P5 picture processor that Philips claims delivers excellent noise reduction, upscaling, motion handling and superior tone mapping for HDR content. There's also Android Pie OS, which has a decent complement of apps from Netflix, Prime Video and YouTube 4K HDR services, with more available via the Google Store. There's also voice assistant capabilities using Google Assistant and Alexa. As this is a Philips TV, you also get the now familiar and extremely useful three-sided ambilight. This can be used as a static bias light to keep your eyes less fatigued while watching films in dim surroundings. You can also select modes that follow the video on screen or follow the sound, and these can turn your living room into a 1970s disco. Finally, as this is an OLED TV, we should point out that if you view static images in bright HDR picture modes or vivid mode with SDR content and static logos or gaming HUDs, you could introduce image retention or burn-in. If you use an OLED TV in the best out-of-the-box settings as seen in this review, and with a good mixture of varied content, as well as following the manufacturer's guides to using the various mitigation features such as the standby wash routines, then image retention or burn-in should never be an issue for you. So, does second from the top mean second best for this Philips OLED TV? While the design of a product is subjective, we did find the 934 to be a very good looking TV with a unique design compared to other OLED models on the market. There is a minimalist look to the actual panel with a 1mm silver strip around the edge of the bezel-less screen. The TV, when table mounted, sits on a stand which is designed to integrate with the Bowers Wilkins soundbar. The soundbar has a distinctive lean back style with a grey coloured grille that runs from the front to the top of the unit and finishes with a top facing silver strip at the rear. This strip has the Philips logo to the left and the Bowers Wilkins name to the right. The connections are positioned to the rear right when looking from behind and featured sideways and downward facing inputs. You also have the LED strips on the back for the three-sided ambilight. Sideways we have a CI slot and two USB ports with a service port in between these. Below these are three HDMI 2.0B ports, then downwards facing is the fourth HDMI 2.0 slot, two 3.5mm breakout ports for audio and component video signals, an RF and two satellite antennas, along with an Ethernet port and an RCA subwoofer output for using an additional subwoofer. All the HDMI ports support ARC and are also full bandwidth 18GB per second 4K 44460p and compatible with HLG, HDR10, HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision HDR signals. The remote control supplied with the 934 is identical to the one used with the OLED 854 and is a full-sized plastic affair with a QWERTY keyboard on one side and the remote on the other. All the keys are well laid out and in a logical manner, and the remote fits neatly in the hand and is easy to use. As we always do within our reviews, we measured the out-of-the-box picture presets to find those that get closest possible to the industry standards. The idea is that a TV must get close to these standards in at least one of its picture modes, so end users can see content as it was mastered and intended to be seen. Calibration is not always an option for end users, so actually knowing how accurate out-of-the-box presets are is very important in any honest TV review. Using the most accurate ISF night mode for darkroom viewing, colour temperature warm and gamma tracking 2.4, we found that the grayscale tracking was really quite accurate to the industry standards. We do have a slight lack of blue within the brighter parts of the scale, and red and green are around 1 to 2% out at some points, but these were imperceivable to the eye and with viewing material on screen, as our delta E errors are well under the visible threshold of 3. Gamma tracking was good, but once again we have a brighter than wanted higher end of the scale, with gamma dropping to around 2.3 at 90% stimulus. But again, this will unlikely cause any visible issues that viewers will see with actual TV and film content. The Rec 709 colour gamut coverage was a little bit odd in that we had a massive saturation errors with green as well as cyan, blue and red being too saturated at the various stimulus levels for saturation on the graph. We double checked that we did have the normal gamut size selected in the menus and not the wide setting, but it appears to be a fault with the SDR colour gamut selection on the 934. We should be able to calibrate this out, but for an out-of-the-box preset it is oversaturated. This does show up with some viewing material where colours do look a little on the oversaturated side. As you would expect, given the calibration controls, we have 2 and 20 point grayscale correction and a full colour management system that we were able to dial in reference levels of accuracy. With the grayscale, the only issue we continue to have was the brightening of the gamma curve at around 80 to 90% stimulus, which drops to 2.3, but again this wasn't overly noticeable with most content, but it is something we would want to have some control over. It would also be beneficial to calibrators if Philips included a gamma editor. Looking at the grayscale, we now have a very flat track which is accurate with delta E errors all under 1, so well below the visible threshold of 3. We were also able to bring in the Rec 709 colour points, so they were far more accurate for saturation and brightness. We also tested that the CMS wasn't introducing posterization or gradation issues to viewing material, and are happy to report that we have no issues using the system and the results. Sometimes a processor can run out of power and introduce issues which we've seen with other OLEDs over the years, but this Philips was spot on. So after calibration, the Philips 934 is almost perfect. The Philips OLED 934 measured over 750 nits with 2 and 5% windows and roughly 710 nits on the industry standard 10% window. As we keep stressing within our reviews, peak brightness measurements are just one small part of the overall picture when it comes to HDR playback, with dynamic tone mapping and other factors also impacting on the image quality. These results are identical to the OLED 854 we tested recently. The 934 defaults to HDR perfect minimum for HDR playback, and this has a roll-off that is designed to display as much specular highlight detail as possible before it clips, given the capabilities of the TV. There's also a degree of dynamic tone mapping also being applied. Looking at the PQ EOTF tracking, we can see that the 934 tracks the ST2084 standard until it starts to roll off at around 400 nits until it reaches the peak here of 700 nits. Looking at the P3 saturation tracking, we can see that once again the results are almost identical to those seen with the 854, which shouldn't be a shock as Philips say the image quality is the same given panel variants across the range with just cosmetic design differences. We measured the BT2020 at 69% XY and 73% UV, with P3 coming in at 94% XY and 97% UV. We found the performance of the 934 to be identical to that to the previously reviewed OLED 854 for image quality. The differences were, of course, with the design and the sound systems, with the 934 winning out with a Bowers Wilkins soundbar. Panel uniformity at 5% stimulus was very good indeed, with no obvious visible banding seen, and full white was also good. However, the ABL circuit, which controls full screen brightness, does work in a more aggressive manner than other OLED TVs from Panasonic and LG for example, and it dims the brightness. The overall brightness was also noticeable in side-by-side testing against the Panasonic GZ950 and the LG C9, all being marginally brighter than the 934. As this is a 2019 Philips OLED TV, it also features the 3rd generation P5 processor. Motion performance is good with no obvious induced judder with 24 frames per second material, as correct pull down is applied when motion style is set to movie. You can also set this to off to achieve correct motion with other viewing material. All other motion options add in frame interpolation and soap opera effect, and they should be handled with care if you decide to use them for fast moving video and sports footage. Some experimentation will be required, as adding too much adds in artifacts. Upscaling was also very good, with HD Blu-ray and streaming looking nice and sharp with good line definition and no obvious signs of edge ringing within the content. Out of the box, we found SDR content to look generally good, with excellent dynamic range and superb black levels. We thought that the just above black detail retrieval was also very good, and the colours were, for the majority of the time, good. We did, however, notice some instances of slightly more saturation than we would like with the likes of football pitches and the colour of the players' kits. Moving to calibrated settings, and the 934 looks incredibly nuanced and accurate with a nice cinematic feel to filmed content. Skin tones are lifelike and natural, with believable tones, and colour now looks balanced. HDR content is also very good, with good colour reproduction that looks saturated but again natural and balanced with excellent skin tones. Dynamic range is impressive with HDR10 content with very good tone mapping. Moving to HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision content, and the quality takes a slight step up with more details now visible in the specular highlight areas and nicely controlled dynamics. Dolby Vision Bright mode on the Philips has lots of image processing applied and motion interpolation, so if you'd like to see things as intended, you need to use the Dolby Vision Dark mode or switch off all the processing in the Dolby Vision Bright mode. The OLED+934 also has another ace up its sleeve, and that is the Bowers Wilkins soundbar. In action, the soundbar is very good indeed, with a nice weighty feel and excellent separation, creating a wide soundstage. It has a very nice top end without being sibilant with voices, and with movie soundtracks it adds a touch more audio finesse and grunt than other TVs in its class. While it has upward firing speakers, we were surprised that the soundstage remained very front heavy, and we were not aware of that much activity going on above us. Subtle is probably the best way to describe the experience, but the inclusion of this quality audio system does elevate the 934 above most TVs in its market segment. For gamers out there, this Philips 934 is a tad slow with input lag measurements of 33 milliseconds, which for the really competitive types will be just too slow. However, normal casual gamers may not notice this lag and will continue to enjoy their gaming, but Philips really should make an effort in this department and match other OLED TVs out there that can get as low as 12.8 milliseconds. The OLED+934 is another excellent TV from the brand, with a strong design and excellent sound system from Bowers Wilkins. It's also competitively priced and offers many of the features we now expect to see an OLED TV, such as Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus dynamic metadata systems. The Android OS and Smart System are stable and reasonably quick in operation, and the 3rd generation P5 processor certainly has the power to provide a wide range of picture styles and processing. However, at AV Forums we're all about the accuracy of the image to industry standards, so we can watch content as it intended to be seen, and in this respect the 934 could be better out of the box, but it does provide excellent calibration controls which allowed us to dial in some excellent image quality and accuracy. Our only request for the future would be for more gamma control from a dedicated editor. The big selling point of the Philips 934 over the other OLED TVs in the range and its peers is the Bowers Wilkins speaker bar. We found this to work incredibly well, and unlike the OLED 903 from last year, where B&W drivers had to exist in a space within the TV that couldn't be changed, this year they've had a free hand on the design and implementation, and it shows. It sounds excellent with all content types, with rich and clear dialogue delivery and excellent weight, which helps with film presentation. It's certainly a step up on nearly everything else at its price point in the respect of audio reproduction. The choice of quality OLED TVs continues to grow, and Philips has created a really nice package with the OLED+934. The mix of excellent image quality and weighty sound reproduction from its excellent soundbar gives the market yet another option when it comes to deciding on your next TV, and in that respect, it comes highly recommended.